Okay, everyone. Hello, this is Raven. Um, I'm here today to talk about how Uber and Lyft allow abuse of their drivers by passengers. I think it's time we really started talking about it. Um, One of my biggest issues that I've had is while the wage protest has been going on all this time, I'm sitting here thinking we need to talk about ratings and how abusive they are and how they absolutely are connected to things like a driver getting deactivated. This is part of the whole environment that these companies allow passengers, customers, to say anything they want to say. And, they talk about the rating systems as about keeping people accountable. And it's not. Because basically they're playing both sides against the middle. And they'll tell each party what they want to hear, but they don't do anything about it. And now, as a lot of you who are watching this probably know, Rideshare Revolution has been deactivated. I mean, come on. I will put the link to his video explaining it himself below. Because I don't want to, be explaining his situation. Let him explain it to you. But as a result of this is a perfect example why we need to start having this discussion. And as usual, I'm not prepared. I didn't write anything down. I'm talking off the top of my head. And I'm not the greatest public speaker yet. So, for those of you that don't know anything about my background, I've been in passenger transportation for almost 30 years. My dad has been in passenger transportation. My best friends have been in passenger transportation. I've driven metered taxis. I've driven airport sedan town cars for a high-end company. I have carried my own taxi and livery license and had my own business, which Uber killed, because one day there were no people on the street because everybody was using this app, and they basically put about 4,000 drivers down in Phoenix and killed the best cab company that ever lived. And I have had an issue with the ratings since the beginning. They're very personal to me because I'm doing my job. I treat everyone with the same dignity and respect. Okay, but if you're going to give me a hard time, I'm going to put you in your place. And I learned very quickly you cannot do that with Uber and Lyft. Okay, even if you are right. Okay, because these people are spoiled brats. And they want champagne on a beer budget. And, the conclusion that I've come to is that these ratings have nothing to do with the driver. They have everything to do with the passenger and the passenger's personal preferences, not whether the driver is doing their job. Okay, now just, and also a little bit of information. When I first went down and signed up for Lyft, there was all this information that indicated to me that it was part of my job to entertain people in my car, to hold a conversation, yada, yada, yada. And that's not really for me. Either I connect with you and I don't. I prefer to shut up and drive. And a lot of times when I get talking, I do things like miss exits, because I'm yakking with the customer. So I prefer to be quiet. And some customers I talk to, but I've become very selective of what I say, how I respond, who I talk to, and in fact, my last visit to the Uber hub, when I had this whole conversation with them again about ratings, I was actually told, just drive. Don't talk to anybody, just drive. I always have had, like when I first started, I was like, are you kidding me? You want me to rate passengers? Why? They're my customers. They're the reason I'm out here. My job is to deal with their problems. My philosophy is when you hire a car, it's because it's a necessity, a responsibility, or a luxury. Okay? It's not a given. Okay? The fact is, this is public transportation, and hundreds of people are in and out of this vehicle a week. This is not my daddy's BMW, which he doesn't have a BMW. He has a black Suburban. Okay, but I've dealt with these passengers for years, and I've seen all the problems in the book, and I don't get scammed on very often. And now I'm starting to have second thoughts, and my tendency is to disagree with Dustin and his driving about all the scam stuff, because I think if you put the information out there, people are going to scam on you. Don't give them ideas. So I go out there and I assume that my customers are good people, and believe me, I've been through the mill. Because I don't take any shit from anybody, okay? I've actually gotten 3 letters, and they've all said it came to our attention that you had an argument with a customer that made them uncomfortable. And I've said, no, I'm sorry. I had words with a customer because they did something unsafe or totally out of line. Or the discussion had to do with putting in stops. There actually I had 3 situations. I had a girl walk out in the middle of traffic and unsafely go around the car, walk in the line of oncoming traffic, and open my door when all her friends got in on the curbside. There were 4 girls, okay? And I snapped. And I'm like, don't you ever do that again. And the whole ride turned into a disaster. And I did my best to smooth it over, but it just got worse and worse because I was so flustered. And like, oh my God, I yelled at this girl. And now I'm screwed. So I was so flustered that I ended up passing the turn, and I had to drive like 3 miles out of the way to get back around the block. Okay, and then another time I had a situation with these people refused to add stops. They basically just said, you just shut up and drive. No, we don't have to put in stops. You just drive. And I had just actually had a phone conversation with Uber personnel asking about, hey, I'm starting to hear a lot that you have fixed rates when you give the passenger their price. So if they don't put in stops, am I getting paid? I've gotten different answers. I'm going to refer you back to the Uber Terms of Service, or rather the community guidelines, to get the answer on this one. Okay, but Uber personnel is telling me something different. And I have twice had this conversation, once with one of the guys on the phone who's from another country, and once with an American dude down at the hub, and the American dude at the hub told me, do not go anywhere that they don't put the stops in. And I'm like, well, first of all, you can't do that. It's a bad rating, and it's a complaint. Secondly, I did find in the terms of service where it says just drive, go to the stops, don't worry about it. Okay? But what the Uber guy told me is they're blatantly committing fraud. And I'm like, well, that's what I think, but I don't want to just come out and say that because I don't know that's their intention. And he said, oh no, they're blatantly committing fraud. Why else wouldn't they want to put the stops in? Because it's going to change the price. Okay? And I said, so basically they're getting over. And it's intentional. And he said, yep. Okay, the third time, and I can't even remember, it was just like last week. Gosh, I can't even remember what it was. But anyway, I was like, I emailed them back, and I'm like, look, no. This customer gave me a hard time, and this is what happened, and this is what went down. And I added, and of course, I don't even know if we're talking about the same customer because you guys won't tell me. We all know that one. But my discussion with Uber on several occasions has been, look, this is really abusive, the rating system. Because there are no guidelines. You're allowing these customers to rate me based on personal opinion and on their whim, not am I doing their job, or am I doing my job? Have I treated them with dignity and respect? Have I got them from point A to point B safely on a reasonable route? One of the biggest issues I had, and I had this complaint repeatedly, is if they make a mistake on the address and they're like over there instead of over here where the app tells me to go. Whether they call me first or I call them first and find out where they are and say no problem, go get them. It was always a coordination on pickup attempt, a complaint. And I'm like, well, for starters, again, I've had this discussion with Uber. Uber knows that when there's an address issue, it's the passenger's mistake, not the driver's. Yeah, I've seen a couple of weird situations where, like, the app puts me, like, on the other side of a wall, from a residence, in the back alley behind a shopping center. But usually after the first couple of times that happens, the app corrects itself once it learns. But yeah, we're talking about that, not that kind of thing specifically, but they'll say that they're at McDonald's when they're really at Target. And, McDonald's and Target are in the same shopping center. And then it's my fault that I didn't find them at Target. Well, because I went to McDonald's because that's where it says on the app that they're at McDonald's. So that kind of thing is an issue. And I would get, in the Prius that I used to have, I would get car quality all the time. And it's like, look, this is public transportation. I have hundreds of people that get in this car a week. I share it with another driver. We drive. And this is not, this is not Daddy's BMW that I'm taking out, to have fun in, and so that you can have fun too. This is my work car. I lease it. I get what they give me. The car has been inspected and approved by both Uber and Lyft. And that's all you need to know. That complaint would really piss me off. I don't get it in the car that I'm in now. And I would get, complaints all the time that the car is dirty. The And the complaint would say, check behind your passengers so that, to make sure they didn't leave any garbage. 3 times in over 7,000 rides, I've had a passenger leave garbage behind. Once was a paper plate, once was a plastic cup, and actually a couple of times people have left water bottles that I've given them when they've opened them, and they've left the bottle as garbage. Actually, there was a girl that left candy wrappers in the little thing in the door, the little indentation where you can grip on the door handle. So yeah, more than 3 times, maybe 5. Okay, the car gets vacuumed and washed after every shift, and before it's given to the other driver and vice versa. He washes it and vacuums it and cleans the windows before he gives it to me. The car's not dirty. What's your problem? Now, this car that I have now, that car actually, well, the old car had leather seats, and I kept telling the guy I leased it from, this car stinks. This car stinks. No. It must be you or your clothes or something, or the fact that you smoke. The car doesn't stink. Oh yes, the car stinks. It smells like old sweaty cab driver. It was a cab for 4 years before it was repainted and became an Uber and Lyft car. And I said, my Lincoln smelled the same. My Lincoln has leather seats. My Lincoln smelled the same way when I got it from my dad after he had been sitting in it for hours a day. It smelled like sweaty cab driver. And mixed with the leather, it kind of smells like dead animal. But I was able to get the stench out of my Lincoln. I was not able to get it out of this Prius. And I swear to God, every time the other driver brought it back, it smelled like sweaty cab driver. So I got a lot of complaints on that car smells. I have no complaints on this other car I'm in now, which has cloth seats. And they're kind of like microfiber. And they're totally stained. Water stained, drink stains, dirt stains, who the heck knows stains. The car is filthy. Apparently both cars had the same driver that was like a serial chain smoker that would smoke with the windows all rolled up. And supposedly, and this car was way filthier than the first car, and I did a lot of detail work myself, and but I don't get any complaints, and it doesn't smell. So, I'm thinking it has to do with the material in the seats, that it absorbs people's odors, and that's why it's really bad. But anyway, yeah, so I have taken steps to fight back against my ratings, and I have put information on my profile on my Uber that seems to have helped with some of the situations. And I've gotten extremely consistent with how I handle customers when they get in and out of my cars, and I cancel rides. And there are certain things that I do. I have certain guidelines that I cancel rides for. If they are calling me on the phone before I pick them up, they're canceled. Because what that tells me is they already have a problem with me if they think that I can't do my job and are calling me on the phone to tell me how to do it. I can't win. Now, my day driver says, well, they're probably just trying to help you out, because usually it's about, well, I'm here, there, or something like that. No, sorry, they're not getting picked up. If I call them on the phone and the first thing they say is, where are you? Well, the question is, where are they? I know where I am. Where are you? If I get that, they're getting canceled. If I'm in Old Town and they refuse to listen to what I'm explaining to them, where I am, how to find me, and how we're going to get out of the disaster the fastest, they're getting canceled. Because that's a problem. And as far as some of the stuff that Dustin is driving talks about, yeah, I'm starting to be a little bit more conscientious because I actually did. Oh, yeah, that's what the complaint was. The last one. Okay, there were 5 riders. There was a guy with 2 girls and a couple. And the girl with the couple, she was the 4th passenger to start to get in, and her boyfriend was behind her. And they were all 4 going to try to get in the back seat. I'm sorry, I can only take 4 passengers. I only have 4 seatbelts. Oh, she started with, oh, come on, it's Halloween, please, 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 right? So they kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I cannot take the risk. And one of the 2 girls that was with the guy was like, what risk is it for you? And I said, well, for instance, I could lose my house. And, if something happens. And she's like, well, don't be rude. Look, I'm not being rude. You guys are not taking no for an answer. I didn't say that, but yeah. So anyway, like 48 hours later, I get this email that says I made a customer uncomfortable that, because I had an argument with them. And I'm like, that's not what happened. And again, I don't even know if we're talking about the same ride. I'm guessing. Because it's the only ride that I had a problem with all weekend. I did like 90 rides. I have had a problem with my ratings. Mostly because of conversation complaints. And what that comes down to is when people would start asking, I would tell them the truth. They'd start drilling me about my pay and that sort of thing. And I make a lot more money driving for Uber than I did driving a cab, don't I? No. And I would tell them the truth about stuff. And I wouldn't be rude in any way. I'd be like, well, this is how it is. At the same time, I would reiterate that there are certain things at Uber that are way better. Like it's the best dispatch system in the industry to date, the way they match us with riders on the app. But no, I tell them the truth about the pay. And I would tell them the truth about things that I thought that it's appropriate for them to know. But no, that's no good. You cannot do that. Okay? So the complaints I was getting was conversation. And for the life of me, the weirdest ones were people that I just had polite small talk with. And I'd get level of conversation. But I didn't talk to anybody. What are you talking about? I get coordination on pickup. I get car smell and car quality. I'm not getting any of those. And I kept telling the guy I leased from, it's the car. And he'd be like, no, it's not the car because I have another driver in the car and he has a 4.98 rating. He's just a different personality than me. When a passenger has a lot of fun with the driver, no matter what, they're not, if there's a little problem with the car smells, they're not going to give them a bad rating. With me, I'm a little different. I don't necessarily have fun with my passengers because I don't like them. And I don't connect with a lot of people. And some passengers I have a great time with. But, you know what? Hi, how are you? How's everybody doing? I see you're going to such and such address. Is that correct? Okay, great. And I drive. And I respond to them if they talk to me. And I wish them a good evening or a safe flight if I'm dropping them off at the airport. And thank you very much. And that's it. I also default my passengers, as I was starting to say before, to 5 stars all the time because they're my passengers. Unless somebody is really an asshole. And then I still don't do it because I'm convinced that if I give a bad rating, they're going to make sure, no matter what, to give me a 1. Just because they can. And Uber and Lyft don't give me this BS. The passenger doesn't know who's rating them. Well, I've had 100 riders all week. They've taken 4 Uber rides. What are the odds that they can't figure out which driver gave them a bad rating for something? And, the other thing about that is, again, there's no guidelines for me as a driver. What is incorrect conduct? Is it wrong to eat your burger that you got at the drive-thru in the car because you're fucking hungry? No. And there are drivers that rate people for that. And I'm not going to get into a list of some of the crazy things I've heard that drivers knock ratings off for. But it's, again, it's just not right. You're never going to see these people again, most likely. Have a nice day. Get on with your life. And this is a big problem. And now we have this driver who is as hardworking and honest and decent as they come. Or so it seems, anyway. But I'm sure he behaves in a professional manner. I don't eat in front of my passengers. I mean, I've popped a mint or a candy in my mouth when passengers in the car are taking a sip off my coffee or water. But I don't eat in the car with passengers because that's taboo. That's rude. And if I have food in the car, I put it under the seat or in the console when I pick up. But, I mean, this guy, again, I'm going to put his link in so he can tell you the story, but he's been way done wrong. I think there's a little bit more to it. I think it just seems like there has to have been some mistake made, like somehow they're confusing him with another driver, because it doesn't make sense what they're telling him. But again, it comes back to the fact that they allow passengers to say whatever they want, and they accept it as the gospel. And they allow passengers to be abusive. It is blatantly abusive, the way they allow the ratings. Both passengers and drivers, I think it's abusive from both ways. Because, again, drivers rate passengers a lot of times based on their personal stuff. Just like we know passengers rate drivers on their personal stuff. Okay? So, what Uber's explanation was is they don't want to put the person doing the rating in a position where they're telling them what they can and can't do. And I'm like, but these people rate on their personal whims. It's not about right or wrong. It's their personal opinion. And it's not about, did I drive them safely? It's about, they didn't like my air freshener, or the color of the car, or the model of car. They were expecting, a Chrysler or an SUV, but they got a cab, a Prius, and an older one with a lot of miles on it that runs like a dream. It's little stuff like that that these people will get you for. And they will get you for requiring them to follow the rules. Like these people that complain because what ended up happening was I took them across the street to the first stop. And then I said the ride's ending here. I didn't cancel it. I just closed it out And I'm like, look, I can't take you any further. You won't put in the stops. It's against company policy. Or rather, it is company policy that you must set up the stops correctly. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you do anything, I mean, even if it's a safety issue, if it's your own personal safety that they're causing a problem, like a bunch of girls screaming in your ears while you're trying to drive and bouncing up and down and around in the car. If you ask them to settle down, that's a problem. Oh yeah, I had a situation with these two girls. I was just horrified. I got a letter on this too, so I have 4 letters now. I asked them if they could turn off their phone notifications because there are certain electronic sounds that seriously hurt my ears. They reverberate in my ears and it hurts. And I asked them to stop it. And the girl was like, oh, you mean I can't check my Snapchat? That's right, you stupid bitch. You can't check your Snapchat in my car. Grow up. So, yeah. And then they started this whole thing. Oh, my God, you're scaring us. Pull over. Let us out. There's nothing going on there. These people are bringing it on themselves, and then they turn around and they blame the driver. And that's got to stop. I mean, these customers, the reality is they scare me. And because you don't know what they're going to do. When I drove a cab, I had so much fun. I would get in the car and I would make friends. And I actually ended up with a guy that I picked up in a car. I was with him for 5 years. And I would get people asking me for my phone number, wanting to call me direct when they wanted a ride. And I had fun with people. And now just people are so different, and the demographic of passengers is so different. It's like this whole thing that's going on with Geo, this is scary. Because like Dustin says, don't think it won't happen to you. And I personally, it's not that I don't think it will happen to me, because I know it can happen to me because it has. But my attitude is I'm safe out there. My passengers are safe. My car is safe. All the cars around me are safe. And my passengers are good people. And I guess I'll leave it at that for now. But yeah, I think we all need to start having a discussion about the abusiveness of the rating system and how these companies allow these passengers to abuse us. Because this is abuse. Somebody calling Uber and complaining, or writing them and complaining, and saying what they said about this driver, Gio, it's abuse. He doesn't deserve it. And it's a bunch of, this guy, he doesn't need to be behaving in the way that it was claimed that he was. Anyway, alright, so I'll wrap it up with this. I really do hope that on Monday I'm going to see a video that this guy has gotten it all straightened out and that he's reactivated. Because, I mean, like, I'm one of those people like, oh my God, I'm afraid to do anything wrong. I go to work with this fear every day. And why should anyone have to go through that just to go out and make a living? Alright, thanks for watching, everybody. Please subscribe and follow.